I picked up a couple of plants from the show this past weekend and I can't wait to share them with you. So I'm going to start with orchids first and then go to the non-orchid plants. So the first plant I want to share with you is the Cymbidiella Rotisticta, or also known as Pardalina. Now this plant looks kind of like a Cymbidium crossed with the Vanda, and it is a stunning plant. In fact, I've been on the hunt for this plant for quite some time, and I finally saw this beautiful specimen at Andy's Orchids, and it is just so beautiful. It's a really healthy plant. It has 3 bulbs, so I think it's probably near blooming size or something like that. I will see how the new growth does this season, but for now it looks super healthy and lush. And I know Andy has this plant for a long time. I've seen pictures of this plant in flower before, and it is amazing. Supposedly this plant grows well with the staghorn fern attached to it, so it usually grows along with the Platycerium madagascarans. I picked up the Platycerium last year, but unfortunately it just did not survive. I think I just did not water it enough. On the flip side, I was able to collect the spores, so I have the spores germinated and we have tiny little Platycerium growing. So hopefully in a couple of years we'll have the Madagascarans, and then I'll be able to put it on my Cymbidiella and see how they will do together. This plant is currently potted up in sphagnum moss, and it likes to be moist, like hot and moist and damp all the time. At least that's what it seems like. If you have better ideas on how to care for this plant, I would definitely love to know. I've also heard that this plant can be pretty tricky to grow. It doesn't like its roots disturbed and like all sorts of things. So I am really curious to grow this plant, and I hope I could do it justice. The next plant I got was also from Andy's, and it is the Chysis. Now I don't have the specific species or hybrid. I just know that this is a Chysis, and it has these kind of salmon, pink, orangey, yellow flowers. It has bloomed before, so this is definitely a mature plant, but because it wasn't listed as an identified plant, I think I got it for a cheaper price. I am really excited to see how this new growth does, and hopefully I can see the flowers if I could maintain the moisture and the hydration for this plant. I have another Chysis that is still considered seedling size and not quite large enough to bloom, so hopefully this one will tide me over until the other one matures, and then I can see the flowers from that one as well. The next plant I got from Andy's is non-orchid. It's actually a Tillandsia usinodes. So this is considered the Spanish moss, and I wanted this plant because I wanted to increase the humidity around my grow tent outdoors. So I do have 2 grow tents outdoors, and one of them I just basically use kind of as a shade house. So I removed all the plastic tarp over it, and I just put a layer of shade netting to just help those plants grow. But in the other tent, I originally had a plastic sheet around it, but the plastic was starting to warp and degrade and just not look good. So I decided to do away with that. So the top tier of the shelf is going to be catasetums, and they like bright light. And then below that's going to be some plants that need a little bit more shade, like my angraecoids. The humidity outdoors tends to be quite dry. I'm hoping that the Spanish moss will kind of buffer that area and create kind of a microclimate of higher humidity. So I'm going to see and test out how that will work for that second tier where my angraecoids are, so that they will grow a lot better. The next plant that I got is a Hoya. I have a couple of Hoya cuttings, and I'm not really into Hoyas, but I am slowly dipping my toes into it. So for one of the vendors, I just asked them what was a easy to grow, easy to bloom Hoya, and they recommended this one. I think this one's called the Hoya Camilla, but I'm not sure. So I will have to see until the flowers bloom to probably properly ID it. It's a pretty vigorous grower. It has several growth points. It's also a little bit sun stressed, so it has a little reddish tinge to the leaves. So I think it just really gives it a really nice presentation. Supposedly Hoyas are great companion plants for orchids, so I'm really excited to see how this one will grow in my care. And the next 2 plants are California natives. I stopped by the Tree of Life nursery booth that also had people from the California Native Plant Society there. I was able to pick their brain and ask a bunch of questions, and they recommended me these 2 plants. So the first one is the Eriogonum fasciculatum. Now this one is called California Buckwheat as its common name, and to me it kind of looks a little bit like a rosemary. So this plant is going to grow like a shrub, and it also has these white flowers that kind of turn a little rusty orange over time, and as the season progresses from spring to fall, that's when the colors of the flowers will change as well. This one should be blooming almost all year round except for the winter season. So it's supposed to look good for most of the year and then kind of trim back the dead spent flowers later on, or leave it to seed and then it'll be kind of food for birds. So overall, this is supposed to be a good wildlife plant to have, and I'm really excited to grow this one in my side yard. And right now it has kind of like a sunnier location, and I planted it next to my milkweed, so hopefully that one will grow concurrently together. And the last one is the Salvia, mellifera, Jade Carpet. Now this plant is part of the sage family, so it has kind of an aroma and a scent if you kind of crush and rub up against the leaves. This particular variety is supposed to be kind of more low growing, so it'll be about 1 foot high and about 5 to 6 feet across. So this one I'm using more kind of like a ground cover, hopefully, and we'll see how it will fill in the space that I have in my yard. Right now I'm kind of doing little stages to gradually introduce more plants and more natives in my side yard. And a lot of the plants that I tried last year, most of them died except for the milkweed. Hopefully this trio will be a nice start to kind of introducing more natives into my yard and just cleaning up the space in general. So that's all the plants I wanted to share with you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more orchid hauls, you can click on the playlist. I have a couple on hand. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!